2023 is the year for LiDAR. Last year, DJI came out with LiDAR and everybody got very, very excited about, having easy access to an entry-level LiDAR system. But if you're considering this, you may want to take in consideration all the little things you're going to need to know so that you are successful with LiDAR here. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to even talk about the most valuable thing you need to know so that you can make money. Okay, so if this is the first time we're meeting, I'm Dan Hubert. I am marketing here over at Phoenix LiDAR Systems. And over the last 8 years before I came to Phoenix, I sold multiple manufacturers' LiDAR systems. So I've seen the pros and the cons, and I've worked with well over 500 clients on getting them into a LiDAR solution and making them successful. And so what I'm going to share with you here is my top 10 things that you should know as you're considering a LiDAR system and entering this into your business. Now, before we get going, there's a little bit of a prediction I've got here. And that is that with this rush of folks coming to the LiDAR space, it's going to be a lot like back in 2015 when, Part 107 just came out, everybody was doing photogrammetry, and what happened? We had a lot of new entry folks that were still in the early phases of their learning, trying to produce data products and not really fully understanding what engineers wanted. So two things resulted here. The first thing is the price per acre for doing photogrammetry went down, okay? Because there was just so many people in the market until those folks that learned actually improved their craft. And then, there was a point where those that were just kind of doing it as a hobby kind of went away and the professionals took over. The other piece that was kind of damaging was that we had engineers that lost confidence in photogrammetric products for a number of years until everybody understood those standards. And so this is what we're going to see in the LiDAR market going forward, is those that are buying prosumer and entry-level products will probably saturate the market as they are figuring this out. And those that are providing professional systems and doing the hard work are going to have more opportunity. So the first set of topics I'm going to talk about is knowing your market. So tip number 1, understand what your market's accuracy requirements are. Make sure that you talk to your customers and see what they need in terms of accuracy. It could be 1-foot contour, 6-inch contour, below contour, but make sure that you know what those LiDAR data standards are, because that's going to make a big difference on which LiDAR sensor that you're going to pick. If you're looking at a prosumer type of setup, you're looking at 1-foot contour, which could finish off about 75% of survey jobs on the market today. But you're not going to get paid the prices that you're going to want. Now, if you're going all the way down to 6-inch contour and below, now you're more into a professional engineering grade, and that's a little bit more rare, and you can charge a higher price. The second tip is understanding the data standards. And what I mean by data standards is what are those end digital products that your customer wants to receive? It's a lot more than just going and getting an LAS point cloud. It's, do they need surfaces, tin models? Do they need planimetrics? What are those products that they're going to want to have? And that's going to also drive the LiDAR system that you're going to ultimately select. The third tip is understanding collection standards. So working in different industries, there are different requirements that are being laid out. So if you're dealing with utilities, they may have a USGS type of standard along with different types of imagery collected at different angles and some orthomosaic requirements. So you may want a system that has pretty good precision, facades, and has different types of cameras arrayed to it, versus maybe a traditional survey that you don't even need a camera, but you're going to want to have a nadir so that you have a 65% confidence interval. The fourth tip is understanding classification standards. And what's important here is the whole point of LiDAR is to be able to strip measurements out, particularly the ground, but then also other attributes. In particular, if you're looking at bathy or lasers that can see underwater, you may have to know what those data classification tips are as well. So making sure that you understand those classification types will also dictate whether you're able to see the attributes you're looking for and you're going to be successful. All right, the next set of topics, tips in here have to do with field work. Okay, so if you're a drone operator, great. But if you're like one of the early surveyors out there that are still doing just GPS measurements and are looking to get into the drone space, there's a little bit to learn here. So the fifth thing I want to talk about today is flight automation and optimizing your collection. So using things like our mission guidance and flight planner will help you in actually laying out a full project and making sure that you have the optimized LiDAR overlap. Because flying LiDAR is a little bit different than flying, let's say, photogrammetry or other collection practices. You have to make your turns better. The way you fly and the way you follow the terrain makes a big difference. So understanding how to fly a drone, but more importantly, and how to use that automation effectively is really important. Tip 6 is also to understand the methods of collection. So obviously, if you're flying a drone, you want to get your Part 107 and understand not just how that works, but make sure that you have the skills so that you can safely recover. But as you get into higher systems, you may want to be contracting out to helicopter or aviation units. And so understanding the particulars around how those are done is really important so that you can understand your cost and what to charge. And the 7th tip is to understand your ground rates. So as you're going through training, you're going to see that if you need to have certain collection parameters, you may need to go faster, you need to go higher, you may need to have a more effective sensor so that you can get the collection rates that you're looking for to offer this stuff at an affordable cost. All right, the next set of topics we're going to talk about through is survey. So tip number 8 is really to understand survey techniques and geodesy. The most important thing is to be able to use survey equipment like base stations and rovers so that you can set up good ground referencing. This is where I would say 90% of the spatial errors actually occur, is setting up your base station either incorrectly or not understanding the reference systems that you are in. So if you're using something like our LiDAR Mill or SE Pro, that's already kind of baked in so that you can actually plug in those base station reference points and make sure that you don't have any errors. However, if you do have a foreign-made system or some of the startup systems that deliver your data in ellipsoidal, that's okay. If you need to do something like that, then I highly recommend using something like Global Mapper, Geospatial Calculator, and convert your data from ellipsoidal to orthometric. But here's where geodesy is really important. You need to understand what those standards are so that you input the right coordinate system so your data is accurate for your customer. The 9th thing to learn here is understanding control. So in addition to operating survey equipment, understanding where to put control down and why is critical. The reason why is control does a couple things. First, it gets rid of bias errors. So this means errors that are with your GPS unit, your inertial navigation unit, or you just had a bad day. The next thing is registration. So having control so that you can either overlay imagery over top of it or match your point clouds is really important. It's also important for identifying how accurate your different classification types are if you're using ARSPS standards. And the last piece is control for certification. And this allows you to produce an accuracy report to a surveyor or engineer so they can use that as a legal document. All right, and step number 10, the last one, and this is your moneymaker, LiDAR post-processing. So anybody can go fly a drone, and anybody can go through some systematic LiDAR processing. But the real moneymaker is taking that LAS cloud and turning it into a digital data deliverable. Okay, this could be a surface, this could be a contour. Again, if you know your market, they're going to tell you what these are. A lot of people outsource this, but if you actually understand these workflows and can deliver a set series of data deliverables, you're going to be able to charge more and make a lot more money and get a higher return on your investment. Okay, so how do you get started and how do you learn more about this? Well, the first thing is watch more of this. If you want to learn something specific, leave a comment down below. Our staff is looking for this so that we can put out the best educational content so you understand how to do drone LiDAR here with Phoenix and other systems as well. The other thing is, hey, get involved. So the American Society of Photogrammetry Remote Sensing, has a whole series of training events and certifications, and I'll leave the link down there below that you can go and join up. It's a good way to be part of a community and also ask professionals how they would do things in certain situations. Next, go ahead and join a survey association so that you can work with other surveyors on what to charge, what to offer, and maybe even have partnerships. And the last is I'm going to put a link down below and come talk to us. Have a conversation and see what LiDAR systems will work for you and won't as you learn your market, as you pick your platform, and as you figure out how to do your data processing. So I hope this video was actually illuminating for you all, and I hope to see you in the next round. Take care.